The late 1980s mark a period of both saturation and diversification within heavy metal. Thrash had reached artistic peak with Metallica's Master of Puppets and Slayer's Rain and Blood, while Iron Maiden and Judas Priest carried the torch for the traditional heavy metal on an increasingly global scale. From the Sunset Strip, glam and hard rock maintained commercial dominance on the MTV with bands like Motley Crue, Ratt, Cinderella, and Poison. But the space for innovation within metal itself seemed increasingly changing, and it was within this context that Helloween's Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and Part 2 emerged. Works that not only advanced the band's career, but also shaped the sound on what would become power metal. Power metal is a subgenre of heavy metal combining characteristics of traditional heavy metal with speed metal, often with a symphonic context. Power metal bands usually have anthemic songs with fantasy-based subjects matter or stronger choruses, thus creating a theatrical, dramatical, emotional, powerful sound. Welcome to the series The Genius Of, and today we're going to talk about two of the most influential albums of all time. Helloween's duo, Keeper of the Seven Keys. We can trace the origins of power metal back in the late 1970s when the groundwork of power metal lyrical style was laid down by Ronnie James Dio, with fantasy-oriented lyrics with songs like Stargaze, A Light in the Black, and Kill the King that he wrote for Rainbow, concentrated around medieval, Renaissance, folk, and science fiction themes.
I read at such an early age and read all about dragons and knights and damsels in distress and great science fiction works. I was just, well, I've got to create what these images are now myself. That's so cool. I decided to put all the things that I wrote in this kind of fantasy area, which made you have to think, what is he talking about? Oh, he said that? Well, I wonder what that looks like. I wanted people to have to use their imagination the way I did and create their own dragons.
But if it was Dio that created the lyrical approach, Robbie Halford of Judas Priest created a blueprint for power metal vocal delivery. His almost constant high-pitched singing became one of the main characters of power metal, and the twin guitar sound promoted by the duo of KK Downey and Glenn Tipton also highly influenced this subgenre.
Before inner-ear monitors, before any decent monitors, you had to scream your throat out just to hear yourself on stage. You know, you're battling against all that volume. I mean, you can't lie back. You've just got to, you've got to rip your throat out.
The early 80s also saw bands like Iron Maiden bringing epic and melodic sensibility to metal, creating anthemic, sing-along music, an approach widely embraced by modern power metal musicians. And other examples of early influences to the genre was the rise of the early German power metal scene with bands like Scorpions and Accept, alongside the groundbreaking Swedish guitarist Inge Malmsteen, who made a significant impact on many future power metal guitarists with his fast neoclassic style. And you can also mention bands like Manowar, with the mythological sword and sorcery lyrics that influenced a number of many acts in the future. But before we go to 1987, when part 1 of Keeper of the Seven Keys was released, let's learn the early history of the band that created the albums that influenced European power metal. Helloween was founded in 1984 in Hamburg by former members of bands like Iron Fist, Gentry, Second Hell, and Powerful, with the first lineup consisting of singer and guitarist Kai Hansen, bassist Markus Grosskopf, guitarist Michael Wakath, and drummer Ingo Schwitzenberg. Every time I make a video, I literally choose the worst names to pronounce. This formation was responsible for the debut EP released in April of 1985, and also Helloween's first album, Walls of Jericho, released later that year in November, both by Noise Records. Both EP and album reflected more on the European tradition of speed metal, rapid tempos, technically proficient guitar lines, and abrasive vocal style delivered by guitarist Kai Hansen. While this positioned the band alongside contemporary bands and some of the bands that are doing similar work at that time, it offered little differentiation from the broader speed thrash underground.
When we did the first, I think it was a mini LP or something. In the magazines and the reviews, they called us Iron Maiden on speed. And they were definitely not so wrong with that, because we were very Maidenish with the twin guitars and stuff, but everything a bit faster, a bit more aggressive.
Now, the turning point of the band was definitely the introduction of Michael Kiske, a fresh out of high school 18-year-old vocalist, who initially rejected Helloween for not being too fond of the Walls of Jericho sound. And he had a range that contrasts a lot with Hansen's raw delivery. This change provided Helloween with capacity to merge speed metal's velocity with more melodic sensibility approach. And also from a structural perspective, it marked a significant evolution. While speed metal relied on the regular verse, chorus, repetition, and a riff-driven sound, which some people call more like a rounded composition style. By contrast, the compositions of Keeper Part 1 demonstrated an early embrace of extended narrative song form.
It's natural for me. It's something that I never had lessons. I was able to hear it and figure it out myself. And I was at a very early age, I was joining Helloween. So I was going on tour, and I had to learn quickly. I was doing mistakes, of course, in the beginning, and then I kind of figured it out. I had to learn by doing.
Keeper of the Seven Keys was recorded between November of '86 and January of '87 at the Horror Sound Studio in Hanover, Germany, with the former Helloween lineup alongside producers Tommy Newton and Tommy Hansen. Kai Hansen ended up playing most of the guitar part since Waketh was ill because of hepatitis he contracted during a grueling touring schedule from previous years. With its 8 tracks with a little over 37 minutes long, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 can be understood as both experiment and manifesto. When the album came out, fans realized immediately that this was not just another speed metal record, and from its very first track, I'm Alive, the music had a different kind of energy, with a still fast and heavy, but brighter, catchier, more uplifting approach. Songs like Twilight of the Gods and Future World, which was the only single released, gave this new identity to metal, with triumphant, melodic, and fun sound that showed that metal didn't have to be all gloom and aggression. We could easily talk about how all the 8 tracks were important for the change, but the one that is most notorious, it is the magnum opus Helloween. A beast of a song with over 13 minutes long that feels more like a journey than anything else, with shifting riffs, mood changes, and a story-driven structure. And it felt like Helloween was building their own epic fantasy within a single track. And that is the one song that basically laid the blueprint for what later we call power metal. There was an official music video made for the song, but it shortened up and only 5 minutes long. Whoa, if you're staying tuned now, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Please support this channel as much as you can, and let's get back to the video. The overall feeling the album gave, it was as important and amazing as just the musicianship and songwriting. Though Kai and Michael's guitar work was top-notch and Kiske's singing was groundbreaking, compared to the darker thrash scene of the time or the glam metal bands dominating MTV, Helloween sounded there like painting in bright colors. The lyrics play with fantasy and myth, hitting a bigger story is yet to come, and the music carry a hopeful, heroic vibe. And more than anything, Part 1 also functions as a transitional statement. While it was structurally ambitious, it also suggests that the full realization of Helloween's new aesthetic and sound was still incubating. It provided the groundwork upon which Part 2 would elaborate. By the time Helloween released Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2 in 1988, a little over a year after Part 1, they were no longer an underground German band. Part 1 made a name for themselves, laying the foundation for what people would later call power metal. But Part 2 felt more than just a follow-up album. It took all the ideas from Part 1 and blew them up on a bigger and more confident scale. The band sounded like they knew exactly who they were now. Kiske's voice was flying. hitting notes that most singers wouldn't even dare to touch. The guitar work locked in perfectly, switching between sharp riffs and melodic twin harmonies that gave the songs a bright, triumphant edge. And with Ingo's relentless drumming pushing everything forward, the album had this unstoppable momentum and heroic approach. The first single, Dr. Stang, with lyrics are based on the novel of Frankenstein, brought some humor and weirdness to the table, proving the band didn't always have to be serious to make a classic. And then it came I Want Out. Arguably Helloween's most popular song. Rebellious cat sing-along song that literally got covered by any other power metal band that ever existed. The epic of the album was the song Keeper of the Seven Keys, clocking in at over 13 minutes, and it was Helloween at their most ambitious. It was a dramatic piece that combined the fantasy storytelling of part 1 with the sense of resolution and more grandiosity. And in my opinion, is just one of another reasons responsible for cementing their reputation as architects of something bigger than just speed metal with melodies. After many years, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2 is often seen as one of the most important albums in European metal history, and for many fans, it is the true birth of power metal as a genre. The record turned a promising band into legends. If part 1 was the experiment, part 2 was the final product. It really proved that Helloween could not only invent a new sound, but it also be the centerpiece of the revolution. The band did plan to release Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and Part 2 as a double album, but it was refused by the record label, insisting that the albums would be released separate. Although in 1993, both albums were released as a double CD sets with bonus tracks, and nowadays you can buy both CD and even the LPs as a set together. When people look back at the duo saga, there are many elements that made the albums change the landscape of heavy metal. Let's talk about 3 pillars that were the most important for this genre, which is musical style, thematic identity, and cultural impact. What we can call its biggest influence, speedy metal was fast, raw, and sometimes a bit chaotic genre, while Helloween kept the speed but polished with melody, harmony, and structure. The soaring vocals of Michael Kiske, paired with the guitar twin leads, created a sound that was heavy yet uplifting, aggressive and yet polished. The long epics like Helloween and Keeper of the Seven Keys showed that metal could be sprawling and cinematic without losing its energy. And songs like Eagle Fly Free and Future World became templates for generation of power metal bands, setting the standard for the fast double bass drums, catchy choruses, and symphonic ambition.
Well, I think we never have been, except on the Walls of Jericho and so on, but from Keeper 1 it was getting away from real thrash. I think it was still heavy in a way, but more classical.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, classical and orchestra, and this is the direction I think we want to go more into.
While thrash bands sang about war, politics, and destruction, and glam bands sang about love, sex, and excess, Helloween tapped into something different: myth, fantasy, and adventure. They built an atmosphere that felt closer to a fantasy novel or an epic movie soundtrack than the gritty realism dominating other corners of metal. The shift in theme gave birth to the power metal identity. Songs about battles, quest, freedom, and hope. In Helloween showed that the metal theme songs can also tell epic stories. Just think about it. Without these albums, there would be no Blind Guardian, no Stratovarius, no Hammerfall, no Rhapsody, and a lot of many bands. The records made Germany a new hub for melodic metal, rivaling with the UK and US scene that had dominated the 70s and the 80s. Fans who wanted something different from Thrash's aggression or Glam's gloss found their home here. They gave people a new way to experience metal, not just as music to rage to, but also as an epic adventure. After the release of Keeper 2, Helloween saw the departure of one of its founders, guitarist Kai Hansen, who went to form Gamma Ray, who disseminated the aesthetic even further, while bands like Blind Guardian, Stratovarius, Agai, Camelot, Angra, and later Nightwish would adopt and adapt the Keeper motto to their own contests. Almost 40 years later, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and 2 are still unbelievable albums. But not only that, they're the records that helped shape power metal as we know it. They took the speed and energy of early metal, mixed with catchy melodies and big story-driven ideas, and created a style that's still going strong to this day. You can definitely see their influence in how often the songs still show up at concerts, festival, and special re-releases.
There was no one, mingling speed metal elements at that point with Maiden melodies and having some priestish attitude as well, and all with not denying its German roots. In terms of lineage, they would be our direct father.
Thank you so much for watching this video. This comes from a fan to another fan. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Keeper albums. Do you agree with everything I said, or do I miss anything? Do I leave something out? If you do or don't, please go ahead. I would like to see your thoughts on both albums and also the creation of power metal. I appreciate everyone's support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and also leave the comment there. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.